Hey guys, it's Mark.
It's Michelle.
This is Mark and Michelle. A very cold, very windy day here in Oklahoma. I think it's like 50-mile-an-hour winds.
Yes.
So
north winds. It's cold.
Yeah,
Man.
ice is covering things here in little bits and pieces.
The deck is treacherous.
It is, and our umbrella for the table.
It blew over.
It blew over, but it was covered in ice.
Yeah.
So, but anyway. We are back to start a new category of symptoms that I recovered from. And the reason we're going through this is because as you guys listen or watch, whatever it is you do, you're going to find a lot of similarities with the autism in your life, with yours, a loved one's, or friends.
And some of these you may not have understood to be autism. There's things that Mark recovered from.
Mm-hmm.
And so we wrote down everything that he recovered from that we could remember.
Mm-hmm. Which looks to be most of it.
And this list is in the free ebook that you can get at www.healyourautism.com called
Buried Alive, One Man's Journey Out of Autism.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so
it also has a key.
Uh-huh.
To what we think may have caused these issues.
Exactly. And what medical medium...
Hi, Jasmina.
Jasmina! What medical medium says causes them as well, because we kind of correlated it with his stuff. So,
educated guesses, kind of.
Educated guesses from our stuff, but then from his stuff. All right, we're going to talk about the emotional category. And let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We'll do like 4 a day. We'll do 4 this episode, 4 the next episode. All right, let's start with the first one. Lack of motivation. Now, I've heard that from so many parents of their kids or their older adult children. Lack of motivation is a serious one when you have autism. Because, to be honest, motivation is a feeling. Notice that the word emotion and motivation share 5 letters. M-O-T-I-V, motive, motion. I mean, somebody's getting sick. But that is an important thing to note, because if you can't feel motivated from the inside, if you don't feel something pushing you to do something, or driving you to do something, or pulling you to do something, you're not going to do that, even if it's good for you. And from my own experience with autism, it was very difficult for me to know how I felt about something enough to know whether I should do it for me. And as much as I liked school, I was not motivated to do homework. In college, so much, well, even in junior high school and high school, it just, I wasn't motivated to do it. I didn't feel a strong desire for accomplishing goals, because I couldn't feel my desire to have those things, you know? And that's an important point, because I hear a lot of people say, well, you're just lazy. No.
It looks like lazy.
It does. It does. It looks like lazy, but it isn't. It is just no feeling of wanting to. You may have your special interests. Those drive you. But usually those special interests are used to distract you from stress. That's what I use them for. And I've heard a lot of other autistic adults and teens say the same thing. They use their special interests as stress release, you know. And so lack of motivation, and Michelle can tell you through teaching autistic kids and adults that it's difficult to get them to practice.
Well, but the thing is, if you set up a schedule and make it a rule, then they will, which is why work worked for you.
Okay, well, see, that's very important. That's an external motivation. Now, what I'm talking about, lack of motivation, is an internal motivation, and an internal force. And and that makes a difference between getting what you want in life and not. And so she makes a good point. Work has always worked for me because I knew I have to be at work. That's a rule. I have to be there to make money. That's a rule. But now I am working hard at moving from using an external motivation to using an internal motivation for life.
Right.
And that is the difference. Laziness is knowing you should do it. You can do it. You just don't.
Right.
If you really want to be that judgmental about it.
But then the question arises, does laziness actually really exist?
Exactly.
Is it really somebody who has metals and viruses and strep
and is so sick they just don't have the energy for it? Money is a great motivator. That is true. And I think some people get so motivated by money that they get wealthy. I would like to be that motivated, right? And I think I can be now. But that's a good point in that there's a lot of things that we judge in society that really aren't necessarily what you think they are. And for instance, we talked about the other night, and Jasmine, I don't think you were here for that. We were talking about heavy metals. We did an episode on heavy metals and how they affect you. To find out that the use of leaded gasoline directly coincided with the rise in violent crime and violent behavior, at least here in the United States, was mind-blowing. Because that means a lot of people got poisoned by lead from the gasoline. It came through the environment, water, air, whatever else. They got poisoned by the lead, committed violent crimes, and went to jail. It wasn't necessarily their fault because they were poisoned by the lead. Yet they went to prison. I'm sure of it. And yet we think that oh, well, he was just a violent person. Well, you know what? No, not necessarily. Maybe you got poisoned. I mean, because getting rid of my heavy metals has seriously changed my life. So getting rid of the heavy metals in your life, how much is it going to change yours?
Well, and I didn't know I had issues until I did the heavy metal detox smoothie and started seeing things drop away that I thought they were essentially me.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? Mm-hmm. It wasn't me.
Mm-hmm.
I told a joke last night.
Uh-huh.
Seriously.
She doesn't tell jokes.
I always wanted to be able to tell jokes, but I could never remember them.
Well, see, her dad does that.
Yeah.
And she doesn't, But I can see that now being a part of you. Now that you're clear of heavy metals enough to tell a joke, So yeah, that's important. That's a side of her.
It's a little thing, but it makes me so happy.
Well, it is because that was a side of her that neither one of us knew about.
Yeah. I always had the desire.
Oh, to tell a joke?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Yeah, I don't think we ever talked about that.
Well, why would I? I couldn't do it.
Well, exactly. You don't talk about things you can't do,
That's
right? All right, let's move into the inability to respond to others' emotions appropriately. This is a big one because I remember so often in my autistic life that people...
It is. Your headaches have been insane.
Yes, you can get home. Yeah. We're hoping they do too, but I'm sure.
I mean, they will go away at some point, but you might need to do detox less.
Yeah, just slow it down a little bit.
And if you're doing celery as well, that could be killing viruses.
Our friend Jasmina says, guys, this HMDS is no joke. She says her headaches have been insane. And we both had headaches on the heavy metal detox smoothie.
At the beginning.
Early on, yes. So they're going to go away. And but the inability to respond to others' emotions appropriately. I remember people asking me, I'm assuming that they were telling me something that they wanted me to care about. Then right after they got done, they would say, don't you care? I didn't respond, so they thought I didn't care. I cared. I just couldn't respond appropriately to them, And that's a big thing because how do other people get feedback from you if you don't give the appropriate feedback because you're sick? I mean, another good example. We moved here in 2011, I was working at a Best Buy on the Geek Squad. And you've heard me tell this story, but this is very appropriate to this very thing. He walked up to the counter at the Geek Squad and he said, my daughter just died. And I said, okay. That's all I said. What else was that? I didn't know what else to say. He didn't seem sad. Obviously he was, but he didn't seem sad. You couldn't
read him because he was a man and his emotions didn't come across probably as much.
Exactly. And so now, never mind, here's another story from the exact same place I worked. There was a woman and her little girl came in. Yes. And this is another example of not responding appropriately, right? Emotionally. Of course, in this case, I couldn't respond. But let me tell you the story so you'll understand. She walks up. She's wearing very skimpy clothing. It's a hot summer here in Oklahoma. It's, well over 100.
108 or something.
Well over 100. And she walks up in skimpy clothing and lays her breasts right down on the counter so I could see them. I mean, they were definitely on display. Now, me being autistic and seeing that and knowing that that's what she was doing, she must have really been doing it, okay?
Well, you said the guys were peeking out.
They were, and that's right. Yeah, they were. And her little girl was standing there next to her. And I'm not sure what the lady said or anything else, but she was definitely flaunting her breasts in front of me. And finally, the little girl looked at her and said, Mom, put those away, And finally, I figured out what she was trying to do. And see, I didn't respond. I just kind of froze up and didn't know what to do. And the other guys on the Geek Squad were laughing at me. And so, I get it now. But had I been an NT guy, I don't know what I would have done.
I don't know.
Because being married, I couldn't respond to that in a way that would have made her feel good about it. You know what I mean? Or me, for that matter. I just would have to say, ma'am, you need to put those away.
You could have said, lovely breasts, ma'am. What can I do for you?
Yeah,
today?
That would have gotten me fired. So, I mean, come on. And, I guess I could have said, oh, great, and moved on, But that, even being an NT, that's a tough situation to handle, And so there was no appropriate emotional response at all. I was just kind of like, and her little girl goes, Mom, put those away, So anyway, that's another example of not responding appropriately.
But what would have been the appropriate response? I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. But all right, let's move on to the third one. The inability to see how much you mean to people. This is huge. All right, because when we first got married, yeah, that would have gotten me fired too, but that would have been excellent.
Jasmine says, how much you want for those?
Yeah, I know, right? And but this third one, the inability to see how much you mean to people. Believe me, you are blind. When you have autism, you are blind to how much you mean to people. Now, I won't say that's probably the case across the board. For me, I was blind to how much people cared for me and how much they were trying to help me. I thought they were interfering when they were trying to help. That happened so often between her and I, between me and other people. I didn't know it then. Now I'm going back, man, I missed out on a lot of help because I couldn't see it. It felt like interference. And so not being able to see how much you mean to others means you don't respond appropriately to their help.
Why do you think it felt like interference?
Because you get treated so stupidly, like you're so stupid when you're autistic by people, that you're like, fine, and then I'll just do this on my own. At some point early on, you decide, I'm going to do this by myself. Hey, Missy, how are you? Marlo!
Marlo, she's shocked that we're on.
Yeah, I know.
You get to see us with your eyes open.
I know, right? Without toothpicks propping them open. And Missy, thanks for being here.
Yeah.
But a good example of this is my first degree in school was anthropology. And so there was a professor, he was 2 or 3 years older than me. And he was interested in helping me. Now I
knew this.
Yeah, see,
I knew he was his mentor.
Yeah, I only knew this after I had graduated and recovered. In fact, I didn't even know this until I recovered. To be honest.
Yeah.
But he was interested in helping me because he thought I was really smart, and I really liked doing physical anthropology.
Yeah.
Especially studying Neanderthals, and that was his favorite. That was his pet subject, so to speak. And so I finally, after getting done with the anthropology degree, I didn't know what else to do. Somebody mentioned biology. So I thought, okay, I'll go on to biology. So I started taking biology classes, and somehow I had to go back and talk to Dr. Williams. That was the professor that I was talking about. And I said, hey, I'm going to go on to biology and learn more about genetics and this kind of stuff. And, you know, I do remember him being disappointed, although I didn't know why then. And so it wasn't until I graduated in 2010, and this was early 2003. So 7 years later, I graduated. Then
3.5 of those years were organic chemistry.
3.5 of those years were organic chemistry over and over and over again. Organic chemistry 1.
Yeah.
And so, but then in 2013 is when I started recovering. Well, it wasn't a couple years into recovery. So you might say about 12 years after I disappointed Dr. Williams. I'm sure he would have helped me become a graduate student with no problem.
Oh, he would.
And would have helped me get through the system. But I couldn't see he was trying to help me. And so it wasn't until maybe 2015 that I realized that was the case after coming out of recovery. And I told Michelle, she goes, I knew this. You didn't know this? No, I didn't know this.
I just thought you knew and you had changed your mind.
No,
I guess.
No, because I would have gone on to study anthropology and paleogenetics and stuff like that. I would love that, you know, but I didn't see it.
Yeah.
And because I didn't see it, I wasn't able to take advantage of it. And so I've probably had all kinds of people throughout my life helping me, but being autistic, and I've seen this happen in a lot of other autistic adults, you think people are interfering in your life when they're just trying to help. And her being a teacher of autistic adults and students, she can say the exact same thing, I'm sure. They feel like they're being interfered with.
Yes, I would say that's probably true. Hadn't ever thought about it because you've never said that before.
Yeah, well, and what it is again, you get treated so stupidly and like you're slow and everything else when you're autistic, and you are, but that's no reason to be treated badly. But because it happens, you early on decide, okay, then I don't need help from anybody if I'm going to be treated like this. And I know I did. And so, although I couldn't say when I made that decision just to do it all on my own, but because of that, I just decided, fine, I'll do this all on my own. So then from then on, if I'm doing it on my own, people who are trying to help me are just interfering and they're just messing up. It's also a matter of control.
Right, right.
So anyway, that's an important point to know, that when I had an inability to see how much I meant to people, even my own wife. All right. Number 4, lack of expressive emotion and reaction. This kind of goes along with number 2, which was the inability to respond to others' emotions appropriately. Well, when you don't have an expressive reaction or you can't express your reaction in a way that other people understand you, or, let's be honest, one that is conventionally appropriate. I used to laugh at the most inappropriate times or say things at the most inappropriate times. That does not go over well with groups of NTs, no matter what their size. You know, they might like you, but they just don't understand it. For instance, the story I told, or the thing that happened at El Torero.
The restaurant.
Me and Michelle were sitting with a couple of friends, and husband and wife, and they were friends of ours. We knew them. And, of course, if we knew them, they would be friends of ours. Well, maybe not. And so we were sitting there, and they were talking, and I made some comment that I thought was perfectly, hey, Hassan, how are you? Or Sandra, sorry. And so here they were talking, and I made some comment that I thought was perfectly relevant, but was entirely irrelevant. And they were sitting there quietly looking at each other.
Scratching our heads, trying to figure out how that fit in with what we were talking about.
And so if you don't respond appropriately or expressively in situations, you don't come across right. And so that makes you awkward. Well, it's not your fault.
Ostracizes you.
It does.
Because everybody else is like trying to figure out, and we're communicating telepathically while you're sitting over here just by yourself.
Right. And so all of that just constantly serves to isolate you when you're autistic.
And we have really learned in Mark's recovery that humans do communicate telepathically.
Yes, they do.
It is a real thing.
There is a way that the brain functions normally. Now, I'm talking about basic functions. Personal preferences aren't normal. Personal preferences can be anything you want. When I say normal, I don't mean your personal preferences. What I mean is speech, judging in your brain, prioritizing, planning, executive decision making, all the things that are normal for a human brain to do physiologically, right? And we have learned that there are normal things like that. And being able to communicate intuitively / telepathically, however you want to call it, is normal. Because it came on for me when I could not do it before.
Right.
And now she and I can look at each other quite often and just get what each other means and go on about our business.
Are you getting that I smell your orangey hands?
No, but anyway, that is an important point. When you can't respond appropriately among groups of your peers or friends, then you aren't taking part in the full conversation at all. So don't tell me that an autistic brain is normal, because that's utter BS. It isn't. It doesn't function properly. If it did, you wouldn't have autism. So these 4 points, and we'll quickly recap them: lack of motivation, inability to respond to others' emotions appropriately, inability to see how much you mean to other people, lack of expressive emotion or reaction. Those are the first 4 symptoms we're talking about that I've recovered from emotionally. But all of those are important, because a normally functioning human brain communicates on like 2 or 3 different levels: explicitly, implicitly, and what I would call intuitively.
And I would call telepathically.
Yeah, okay.
It's the same.
Okay. So 3 or 4 ways. And when I was autistic, the only way my brain communicated was explicitly verbally. That's it. And she knows that because she lived with it. But then she's also taught other adults and kids with autism, and it's exactly the same with them. So we have experienced it. We know what we're talking about here. So that's the first 4 symptoms of the emotional symptoms that I've recovered from. Tomorrow we'll continue with 4 more symptoms. And but you guys be sure to keep on that celery juice, keep on the heavy metal detox smoothie, keep on the
lemon water.
Go to www.healyourautism.com. Our book, Buried Alive: One Man's Journey Out of Autism,
has this
That's
list.
Our freebie book, but it also has this entire list. There's about 50 or 60 symptoms here that we put down that I recovered from, and which is quite amazing. I'm coming to find out that my autism was less high functioning and more moderate, just because I had language skills. All my other skills in all the other areas were much poorer than my language skills. So so language skills isn't necessarily a good determination of whether you have autism, what severity your autism is.
Right, because we've discovered Mark was actually more autistic than many other people that we have met through doing this.
Exactly. And so anyway, then you'll definitely want to get started on healing yourself or healing your kid. So go to www.healyourautism.com/buy the book, BUY the book. And our detoxing guide called Heal Your Autism's Do-It-Yourself Guide, Healing Begins in Your Kitchen. And Missy, it is in the book.
It's on the website. It's in our book. It's all over the place.
It is. You will
yes,
find
ma'am.
you will find a video on our page
YouTube,
here as well.
Yep.
And
we're
so,
on YouTube. We've got a video on there.
Yep.
It's everywhere.
Yeah, you'll actually see us making it. So anyway, guys, have a great day, Jasmine.
Oh, we do coaching.
Oh, and we do coaching as well.
If you need help.
Because sometimes you have questions that can't be answered by a book or otherwise. So that means you contact us, and we hold your hand to get you to the end.
Yes.
All
you
right.
can do it.
You can.
You can do it.
That was a fingerprint for you. All right, guys. See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.